Hello, and welcome to the very first episode of an AHEM Moment with Caroline Cho.
And Eric Thana.
Yeah, nice to see everybody here with us today. I wish I could say we have a sponsor. We do not.
And we have nobody sponsoring us except ourselves, which is totally fine.
We are completely solo here, but we are happy to have you here with us. Just letting everybody know, if you hear any excess noise, unfortunately, this is also a casualty of having an AHEM moment. This is one of the only times of day that we could actually do this. It is about picking a time to actually talk. And even though we've known each other now for almost 20 years,
18 years.
And lived with each other for about 12, I'd say, at this point.
Mm-hmm.
You still have to pick or have a moment in the day to actually sit down and talk. And talking is more my forte than yours in terms of...
I'm rolling my eyes. I don't know if you can hear me in my voice.
But in the end, we're here to share things that we're finally ready to share after this long of knowing each other. And picking things that we've learned along the way. And we have learned a lot. Both of us are...
and we're still learning. You know, we are no experts in any of this. We are, I guess, experts at ourselves and our own relationship.
Mm-hmm.
You have to take it for what it's worth.
Yeah, we're both also of middle age now. So
it's not so bad.
It's really not. And that's really the most interesting part, is that I've known you now since I was about 22, so little backstory for you. I've known Eric since my 22nd birthday party.
Yeah, it was good times.
It was good times. More on that later. But essentially, I've known you ever since then, and that has been a kind of interesting part of our relationship, is that we've known couples who have known each other their entire lives. We've known people who have known each other for literally a year. And I don't quite know how they do it, but who knows? In the end, this is our story and how we've gotten to this point. And that's an interesting thing, getting older. Obviously, you turned 40 before I did.
Yeah, I'm a little under a year older than Caroline is. So I'm 41. I'll be 42 this year, 2023.
Mm-hmm.
Good times.
Congratulations.
I know. True story. True story. Yeah, I'm going to sell the movie rights to that one. It's going to be great.
There's a few assessments that we made from actually just literally decades. I know I'm using that word a lot. Sorry. I don't quite mean to say that so much. Loosely using literally. Well, I'm sorry.
No, you're
anyway.
Good.
So are we the same people going in than we were when we met? Thank God I can say no. I'm not.
No. Thank God. I mean, if I were the same person now going on 42 as I was at 22, I would be in a lot of trouble.
I think we both would be.
Yeah. No, that personal growth is everything, and I think for some people, like me, it was a very slow progression to where I am now, and it keeps continuing. It keeps going on.
But I don't know if you can hear me nodding, but that's pretty much.
Yeah, very much. And that's the thing about getting older. You're a little bit more. At least I think so. You're a little bit more self-aware, and you're able to own some of the things that make you who you are, and that's part of me in my own maturity and personal growth, that I was not at all self-aware when I was 22. I thought at that age that I knew everything and the world knew nothing, and the world needed to bow down to me because I knew everything, being a stupid 22-year-old college graduate. That's the only thing I had going for me at that age when I met Caroline. So, oh yeah, good times.
I mean, that's the thing, right? Is that we were saying, if you are the same person you were back then, that's scary. And And not for nothing. Yeah, that's judgmental. I'm sorry, but that's what we sometimes are. What I mean by that is, if there really was no more room for growth since you were 22,
Hmm.
then, and I mean this to anybody, if there was no more growth or there was no more, will to see where this all goes, I notice those are the people we kind of don't talk to anymore. When we first met, our even our energy level pretty much was just very different. Both of us, when we began our careers, what we both kind of did we have 3 jobs a day. And
Oh yeah,
I did have
yeah.
3. What were your 3 jobs?
All involving education of some sort, whether in a school or tutoring or I used to teach martial arts. So on any given day, I was doing all three in one day. And I had the energy for it, and I was there for it because we talk about this, right? What each decade of our adult lives has meant, and granted, we've only completed 2 of those decades.
Hmm.
Um, Caroline's motioning to me that I'm rambling, but
You
anyway.
are rambling. Come
But
on,
you asked a question.
answer the question. What
Well,
were
but
the
you
three
asked.
jobs?
You asked.
Oh my God.
Okay, fine. Then from now on, I will answer your
Don't
questions
be
with
obnoxious.
single
Come
word
on, just say
answers.
what your jobs were.
So there was that, and I tutored ESL.
Hmm.
And then I taught martial arts, and then over the summers I worked in an summer program, like an enrichment program, working with elementary or middle school age kids.
Yeah, my 3 were. It was an extraordinarily wonderful day if I would manage to squeeze in 4, and by that I'm being completely sarcastic. Um, the morning would be a babysitting job.
Hmm.
Then I would get to work at 11. I was part time at the time and commuted from Westchester to Stamford, Connecticut. Not the longest commute, but it was still like 40 minutes of hell for
Just
me.
traffic, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
bad traffic on the I-95. Everybody knows it. Um, so then I would go to my job, any education job I had, and this wasn't even in the very beginning. It was just, for a few years it was like this. And I would have my school job during the day, where I was teaching or assisting, and then I would go to my job after school, which was working at an art studio, the same art studio I actually grew up in as well, having lessons in high school. And then somehow at the end of the day, I would manage to have time to go and party basically with my friends.
Well, not
Then,
just time, but energy.
but getting up to do it all the next day.
Yeah.
And this is the comparison of your energy level from your 20s to your 30s to your 40s, I guess, is that it takes you time to recover now. Like there's you need like not just a day. You don't you need a few days to actually do this. And
Yeah, right. Because of like just the physical soreness of being out all night and partying up and all that other stuff, and
yes.
that, yeah, that takes a long time.
Yeah, there's also differences. Like you and I used to go out to eat all the time. Every weekend we'd go get huge diner breakfasts, and at the Gotham City Diner in Jersey. I used to also go in public transportation 3 different ways to go see you. I would Metro North it into Grand Central Terminal, then take MTA to whatever. You're motioning to me to finish. I listen to you ramble forever, you
Yes.
big jerk.
Yes.
And then whatever. I made the commitment. I can talk about it. I pretty much then had to take the A train all the way up to 160. No, I'm sorry, 170.
8th Street.
Yeah, no, that's 160. 100, whatever comes after 168th on the A line. I'm sorry, it escapes me.
175th. Anyway.
To the George Washington
Yes,
Bridge.
Port Authority.
Get on the bus to go over the bridge, and then you would meet me there. So when I say I was committed to this relationship, I was committed. Could I do that now? Hell no. I would not.
I think after a while, I just went up to your house and picked you up and drove you down, and
Right.
drove you back.
And then there was also just, your energy is different. I mean, there's the whole thing with ageism. We look younger, but we are, of a certain age. And there are people who will treat you a certain way when you look a
Oh,
certain
yeah, let me
age.
tell you. Going into a liquor store with someone who is, younger than you, they don't get carded, but I got carded.
And you were pretty freaking sore about that,
A
but
little bit. I mean,
yeah.
it's a blessing. I know it's to look younger, but also it's that sort of thing, right?
I mean, this
And
is what people, pay to look like, and I would
I
like to think
suppose.
that's the great thing.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
the treatment of young people, I was at an event recently, and there was this woman who was talking to me. I really wanted to speak to her. She's, I've admired her work a lot, and then she just kind of I noticed that the vibe was a little weird, not off-putting, but just kind of like, And she asked me how old I was, and I told her, I said, I'm 40, and she looked, she goes, "You're 40?" She's like, "Oh my god!" And here I am, like looking down at you and talking to you. I'm like, well, you don't have to do that, but it
Like, and
was.
generally to anybody, you do.
I mean, it was just one of those things. It's an innate thing that we all acknowledge that
Yeah,
we do.
yeah.
It's something that you and I even do. It was looking at how do we evolve, or do we stay the same? Do we want to keep growing, or do we want to cling to this, notion that we are not the same people that we were back then? And
Oh
I,
man, do you remember when we thought that we were done? we were, at the pinnacle of growth, and we were like, that's it, we know everything. And then we hit 30 and we're like, no, we don't.
no, I mean, the 30s were really tough. It was genuinely, I think, even harder than it was harder than the 20s in that and I'm glad I got kind of validated by this by some grandmother that was speaking online, about, how she looked at everybody in her 30s, and
hmm
how she said there was so much pressure to have a house and to have kids and to be married and to have accomplishments at a certain age. And I remember we definitely felt like that. A good 10
Yeah,
years of
and there's a
10 years of hell,
right, and
basically.
there's a toxicity that comes with that, which is not to say that people should not be proud of the things that they have and the things that they've achieved and all this other stuff, but or it feels like, in our 30s, it felt like we were in a competition
Hmm.
with other people, like our friends and relatives. We had to have these things in order to be, considered to be adults, or whatever, or even equals
Hmm.
to some of our peers and relatives. And I think that's something else that we learned along the way. It's like there's no real benchmark for anything. You just kind of live life the way that makes sense to you. And
Hmm.
we got married when we got married, and we
We got
were
married when we were 30, by the way,
30.
30 and
Yes.
31. To think about who we were back then as
Mm-hmm.
opposed to now, it's like for my, you described yourself. I'm just like, I was definitely a different person. The best of me, I want to think, stayed in terms of just, my heart of how
Oh
it,
yeah, yeah.
my heart as a person,
Mm-hmm.
and what was so important to us back then is not important to us now.
Right,
And
right.
that's not to be snotty. It's just, back then, I look at pictures of my nieces and nephews and how they kind of like are navigating life and living that part of it that we've already lived, and kind of like justifying their means of, how they're kind of getting through everything. And sometimes people listen when you tell them things, but Lord knows I have to be empathetic to the fact that we did not listen in the same way that they can't listen, because they're trying to figure this out. They're trying to figure out, the 20s. They're trying to figure out even the 30s in some cases. And, it's like everybody's kind of traveling their own path. But also, how was I? I was a lot more volatile. I was more volatile, mostly because I was like also the dynamics of what people don't tell you is going to happen is that, the drama that happens between your friends also doesn't matter anymore. Dating, that stuff, it's just the drama of dating, of course, goes through your entire life, I want to say. But I also want to say that, all that looking back, even at like old Facebook memories and stuff,
Yeah.
and you see what was so funny and important, like that you would post at the time. And I'm like, I'm even starting to erase photographs that even had any meaning to me.
Hmm.
Back when I throw away I've thrown away a lot of photographs of people and on my feed, people that I just don't know anymore. We were just partying friends, or we were, people that didn't really know each other. And that's not to say that there was no significance. It's just,
Have you
you
started
know,
clearing out the contacts on your phone too?
yes, that I
Yeah.
did start to do as well. Mostly because
Yeah.
I'm like, who is this? I'm just gonna
Right.
say this. I Marie Kondoed the hell out of my phone, and I was like, does this spark joy? No, it's more like I don't know or even remember who this person is. Um,
Yeah, I gotta do that too.
and there was someone named Cricket in my phone, and I was like, who the hell is Cricket? And I was like, in my head, I'm like, holy crap, I do know this person. I remember. I just can't. Just can't. I want to say it was a woman, and I want to say I can't remember the context in which we knew each other. I apologize, Cricket, if you ever are listening to this, and you were wonderful. I do remember this with fondness. But I do like getting older. Listen, in a pandemic that literally took so many people away from people's lives, we get the opportunity to still be here, and I think that it was just truly important to embrace that part even when things got really
Yeah.
tough, and Lord knows things were really tough in the last 2 years.
Hmm.
And especially for us, we went through a lot. We went through a lot of things we'll talk about even
Yeah.
more in other
Well,
episodes.
we'll tackle all those things individually, and in some cases, together.
But
Yeah,
I will say that you've told me
I did.
the nicest thing that
Yeah.
I've heard, and it was just something, and we had this moment that we didn't realize when we realized we had known each other for 20 years, which was that I'm your oldest friend, apparently.
Yeah, you are my oldest friend.
This was bewildering to me because I grew up in a town that literally had this. I use that freaking word again. I But I grew up in a town that everyone went to school together from ages pre-K to
Right through high school.
through high
Yeah.
school. Yeah.
Yeah, and I moved in the middle of elementary school from one town to another town, so I had to kind of start all over. But regardless, I mean, I'm not really good at keeping in touch with people anyway. So the fact is that I met Caroline on her 22nd birthday way back when, and we've been friends ever since. Even if
Mhm.
we weren't together, dating or whatever. Caroline has been my oldest friend. I've known probably longer than anyone else consistently.
Hmm.
Um, which is
Who is this Caroline? She sounds like an amazing person.
she's standing right next to me. And speaking, and I will say, speaking of, things changing and as we get older, um, I maintain you look exactly the same as when I met you when you were
That's nice,
22.
but I hope I look better.
I mean,
Most
you're beautiful then. You're beautiful now.
come on. It's I have less hair, but
No, no, no.
just like
I do.
I encourage anyone who has wondered about this, though, the fear of getting older, to two things after, like, actually, to that point, which is that you and I have said the magic scary age, the scary person who is fearing aging the most is ages, pardon me, anyone out there, ages 26 through 30.
Or
You,
right just before the
right
30th
before the
birthday.
30th birthday. Those are the folks who, in my opinion, are acting the most out of the nervousness of getting older. But also, I was never one of those people. I was always looking forward to the next chapter.
Yeah.
But also, I encourage anyone who has this fear of getting older. The 30s ain't that bad. P.S. It was just difficult in our corner. But I will say, though, that you will learn a lot. Um, and if you choose to, by the way.
Yeah,
Um,
learning is a choice.
yes. But also, I encourage you to write down whatever has happened to you in the last 10 years. And I kid you not, I did this as I was updating my resume. But also, it will show you exactly everything you've done. Little things as small as learning, how to use your DVR, which I didn't. I learned that a long time ago. But if
Hmm.
but something like that, as in, I got to travel, or I got to, survive, a bout of COVID. I got to, get my job, or I got into medical school, or I got to walk in the women's march, or
Hmm.
something along those lines. I promise you that you're going to see in the very visual sense and literal that you have done more than you think, and that you really are more capable of so many things. And maybe that won't fix everything that might be going on in your life and wondering where it's going. But I do get someone to measure it with, by you at the same time through your
Woo.
eyes. It would have only had to matter to me with or without you. I'm just glad that we, got to be on the ride
Yeah,
together.
yeah, and I will say about getting older, I feel that the 20s are just an extension of our teen years, except with money and fewer limitations set on us. And we hit 30, and it's like, oh, we gotta hustle. It's all about hustle. Just gotta go to work. Gotta make money. Gotta get the house. Gotta get married. Gotta do all that other stuff.
But then, did you ever talk? We've talked to everybody who did get these things.
Mm-hmm.
And that's another thing, folks. Talk to the people who have gotten it. Sometimes they'll tell you the truth. But if you're lucky, someone will be honest about the house, for
Mm-hmm.
example.
Oh man, I can't even imagine when something goes wrong how anyone pays for anything.
Yes. Or there was a friend of mine who had to get trees cut down in his backyard, and it cost, I think, like $3,000, $5,000.
It's like, who's got that
Um,
money?
Well,
Seriously.
people do, but it's like there was
Is
that.
that
There were
homeowners insurance
the
that pays
best was
for it?
watching our friend Dave chase deer out of his backyard.
Yes. I got a video of that. I do have a video of
Quite,
that.
we love you, Dave. Just it was awesome to watch him run across this gorgeous new backyard that he had, and he had to run after deer to chase them away from his yard. And we were, my cousin has told me, there's always something broken in the house. There's the upkeep, there's the mortgage, there's stuff. And then you have, if you're lucky, or if this is your will, they have children and they have to worry about that and them in the house. And always more to it than you think. It
Yeah.
shouldn't stop you from necessarily having that dream, but yeah, in the end, getting older has its pros, has its cons, but it is something that we've realized in the conclusion of, that we're not the same people going in than we were, uh, who we are now.
Yeah. And so much of being in our 40s is like, we got to watch our cholesterol. We have to eat better. We have to exercise more. We have to do all these things more intentionally. But also, I think when I hit 40, and even more when I hit 41, is that
And there are probably people out there scoffing at the 40. Like,
right,
who are these people like
right,
talking about?
people that are in their 60s,
We
but
can't help our age. I'm just
but
cannot help it.
we, you know, as me personally, as I'm getting older, I'm focusing more on the stuff that is really important, like my relationships, my marriage, doing work that I feel is worthy of doing. Um, and I'm focusing less on keeping up with people and keeping up with appearances and all that other stuff. That all that stuff, and and also like grudges, holding on to grudges. I don't even care about things anymore. And in all honesty, like I was mad at whomever for whatever reason. I can't even remember. And it's like I'm done. I don't want to hold on to that, but And the plus side of aging as well is, I like to think that I've earned every single white hair that I have. I've earned all like the lines that are starting to creep in around my
No.
eyes and on my forehead and all that other stuff. I've earned those things as if they are badges of honor because I've been able to get through life. And people are gonna say, "Oh, you're still young." Yes, I understand that, but to get through life as I have, and to hopefully continue to get through it with Caroline. I thought I was going to have a hard time with just like the physical change that I'm seeing, and but it's not really anything. It's like, yeah, I can get used to that. It's not a big deal.
I will say this. I'm glad to not care about certain things anymore, but I also am glad to care about other things.
Yeah.
And now have the language and the strength and the knowing, a little more wisdom in the system at the same time, still
And the
learning.
energy to actually care about those things that are important.
And the things that are not. And I'm hoping that we'll learn more and be able to share more as the time goes on.